Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's talk about change. Change comes to those who want it. You gotta want change. You have to invite change into your life. You gotta open the door for it. Invite it in, like a vampire. The change isn't coming to you unless you invite it towards you, unless you ask for it, unless you want it, unless you're searching for it. When you start searching for it, change pops its head up and is like, you looking for me? But if you don't want to change, you don't have to. No one's going to try and change you. Well, some people do try to change you, and that shit never works. I know with myself in the past, and people have tried to change me, and I can tighten up. You are not going to get through my armor. You're not changing who I am. We become very defensive. I've been so weak, such a shitty, lame, just loser of a fucking degenerate in my past. I can say that honestly. And in some of those times where I was at my lowest, I felt the most rigid and steadfast in who I am. Trying to say, I'm a good person, when meanwhile I'm involved in all kinds of criminal activity and just terrible, terrible, terrible things. Betraying people, lying to people. I'm a good person. I have a motorcycle shop, and that's my main focus. I also do life coaching and mentoring. You can contact me and we can set up a life coaching or mentoring program, and I can help you get on track with a lot of the issues that you may have in your life. But I don't help everybody. I'm not a hustler. I'm not trying to start some empire with this shit. There's other people on YouTube that are. I'm not trying to have some videos where I show you my garage full of Lamborghinis and try to encourage you to be like that. I'm just a guy who owns a motorcycle shop that's been through a lot. On YouTube, spitting game in his fucking spare time. Had someone over this weekend, just a buddy of mine. It wasn't a customer or anything, and he has a bike that he's building, and he had some old rims that he wanted to use, and he's dedicated to these rims. And they had some terrible tires on them, so we were trying to pry these tires off old school style. And I don't know if you've ever pried a set of really old tires off of a set of old rims, but I'm sure if we were videotaping it, we would have looked pretty foolish because we wrestled with that shit. We finally got him off. And he starts telling me about a friend of his who he is concerned about, an old Army buddy. Navy buddy. And he was saying the guy's homeless, the guy's on drugs, the guy's gotten problems, and he used to be a really good guy, and now he's fallen, and I know that he has a good person in him, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've heard this story before. I'm not trying to belittle it, but I've heard this kind of story before with other people. The way he described to the guy, it didn't sound like the guy wanted to change. And that's what I asked him. I was like, well, does the guy want to change? And he's like, well, I don't know. Well, that's where you have to start. What are you going to do? You're going to bring him to me, like abduct him with a fucking pillowcase over his head? He's going to wake up in my office, and we're going to fucking hold guns on him and say, change, motherfucker, change. I mean, you got to want to change. You can't force the guy to change. And then he starts telling me about his buddy's wife, his military buddy's wife, really wants him to change. So his best friend and his wife want the guy to change. But if he doesn't want to change, none of it matters. Just because your wife wants you to change and she says, well, it's time that he changes. Okay, you can say that till you're fucking blue in the face. If that dude doesn't want it, then it's not happening. And my friend who was over at my shop telling me about the problem was just like, well, what do you do then? I mean, what does she do? If her husband is going down the tubes and her life is becoming really hard, and my advice probably is what you're thinking right now. My advice was to tell her that if that motherfucker doesn't want to change, then she should leave him. That's hard advice to give. I'm not trying to break up a marriage. But if you're with somebody who doesn't want to change and that life is affecting you, somebody else's delusions and negative behavior and self-destruction is causing pain and suffering in your life on a daily basis, weekly basis, bringing you down, causing you financial hardships, causing you depression, anxiety, making it so you can't eat well, sleep well, right? Causing physical and mental health problems for you, you need to leave. Because that motherfucker doesn't want to change. You can't force people to change. Change doesn't come to people who don't want it. I know what that's like. I didn't want to change for a long time, and I didn't. And I watched people drop out of my life, and I would just give them a big middle finger. Don't let the fucking door hit you on the way out, bitch. Fuck you. I am who I am. You don't like me? Suck a big fat dick. I'm not changing who I am. Fuck you. And I found myself all alone in this world. That's a tough place to be. It's tough being all alone. Guys go crazy in prison when they have nobody. Guys go crazy on the streets. I had a buddy of mine, Buddy Glenn. It's funny how I call him a buddy still. Glenn threatened to kill me. He threatened me. And I still call him a buddy. A guy threatened to kill me, but I knew that he didn't really mean it. I mean, maybe he meant it at the time, but I laughed it off. He's just in his emotional state. But he killed himself because he felt so alone. Now, he could have made steps to be less alone, right? Obviously. He could have changed. Glenn went from being completely isolated without a friend in the world. He even lost me. I was his last friend, and he turned on me. Told me one day, he mouthed off to me in a weird way, came out of nowhere, and I forget what it started it, but I remember what he said, and he said, I got a gun in my fucking pocket right now. Now, when someone says that to me, that means that you're threatening me with that gun. That's what that is. That's a I'll shoot you threat. That's how I took it. I also have a gun in my pocket. We can see who's John Wayne and who's Clint Eastwood, right? See who's faster. I bet you I could Josie Wales your ass pretty fucking quick. That's my buddy. And he killed himself because he felt so alone. He could have changed, but he would have had to wanted to. I tried to change him. He was massively overweight. He has pictures of himself in his house. He was a biker, and right in his fucking coffee table, he had a frame, a nice fucking chopper frame. He was building parts on the wall. You go to his house in his living room, his fucking motorcycle shop. I talk about him like he's still alive. Pictures of himself on the wall, Venice Beach, where he's muscle man, workout guy, all buff. Right before he died, Glenn was the most overweight motherfucker I know. He was big, fat, as fat as he is tall. He let his whole life go. I tried to get him out there and just walk on the beach. Just some walking, man. You could walk. We could just walk 100 yards with me. Just do something. Couldn't even do that. I couldn't force him to change. I would try to spit game to him like I do in these videos. I'd try to force that shit in his head. He would just put up walls. And there's a guy that threatened me with a gun in an argument. And when I got the word that he killed himself, he hung himself in the garage of his mother's house. His mother died, not of COVID. She was like 98 years old and had been sick. She died in 2019. That was the last connection he had. Everybody else was gone. And a man that refused to change was at the end of his rope, literally. He went and hung himself with an extension cord in the garage. I wonder, it's like, how do people get to such a brick wall to where they don't see that all you have to do is turn around? You can go back the way you came. You can find a new path. When you hit a dead end, you could just turn around. You could go over the wall. There's always an option. My motto is where there's a will, there's a way. Because I'm open to change. I've always been open to change. I tell myself I'm open and willing to change. It's a mantra. I tell myself that. I brainwash myself with that shit so I don't become too rigid. When I start saying things, well, this is how I've always done it, I got to stop myself and check myself, because that's the statement of the fool. When I start turning advice down, left and right, like I know better. No, that's a dumb idea. No, that'll never work. I got to start checking myself. When you run out of advice, for yourself, we all talk to ourselves. Try to be these wizards with all this wisdom and say, well, this is what I'm going to do. I do this with myself. I think I'm pretty fucking smart. But when you run out of advice for yourself, what do? Have a breakdown? No, you go and you talk to your consigliere, your right-hand man, your brother, your homeboy, your wife, maybe your son, if he's old enough to have some wisdom to him. A buddy of mine, he's got a 30-year-old son. His son's pretty smart. He can talk to his 30-year-old son, and his son can say, hey, Dad, you're just not seeing shit right. But you have to be open when you hit a brick wall. We have to be open. Seek advice. That's finding a new way. That's resilience. If you don't want to change, you must just want to end up like my buddy Glenn. What else is there? Change is life. Not changing is death. Think about that shit. Thanks for watching.